Welcome to Wordforge. My name's Kevin. Today, let's talk about this channel. All right, what you can expect. I'm also going to give you a little bit of history on my personal writing career, or an attempt at one. Probably a more accurate statement. So, back in the day, middle grade, went into the school library. They had some Goosebump books. So I started reading. I checked them out. I think I read all of them. I think they had like 4 or 5 of them. And then I was about this age, middle grade, where my parents would ask us what we wanted for Christmas. So I was like, Goosebump books. It even came to the point where we got those Scholastic things, and my mom would start ordering from them. But unironically, her and my dad were buying so many of these books for me that she was like, you know what? I want to know what this is all about. So one day she asked me to give her one of the books so she could read it. And she read it, then she read another, and then she started collecting them for herself and reading them. In fact, her collection became way bigger than mine. And the vast majority of the time, like, she was ordering books through Scholastic. She'd probably get me 1 or 2, but most of the time it was for her and to get any new Goosebump books. Other things that I also started reading at the same time was Betsy Haynes' Bone Chillers, M.D. Spencer, Shivers, and of course Animorphs, though Animorphs technically isn't what we would call middle grade horror. This I've never read, but I've always seen these in my mom's book collection, so I started to get a few of them. Apparently, these are actually older than Goosebumps. And of course, after this, I also jumped into his 2000 series. I never really was interested in the Give Yourself Goosebumps series. I don't mind adventure type books, choose your own ending. I never really liked them that much as a kid. And as an adult, I read a few of them. In fact, I have a zombie book on this bookshelf. I think it's actually somewhere over here, which is the same manner. Choose your own adventure. Will you die in the zombie apocalypse? I probably would. Let's be real. Most of us probably would. So what kind of content can you ultimately expect from Wordforge? Well, if you read the description, we have debates and discussions. This can go from anything that is related to entertainment. I do play video games. They are an art form. Being a creator, I have thoughts and opinions about the mistreatment of this art form. Is DEI an exaggeration or an actual issue in Hollywood, be it in film? Well, technically film is, I was going to say film or television, but technically those are one and the same thing. Movies or television, or, even animation. And then I also have this learning. I do want to do a few videos where I'm kind of giving you my advice and tips on writing, but I don't want people to think that this is a how-to writing channel. I also plan on reviewing books. Unironically, as a writer, I felt it would be a good idea to review how-to books on writing. You can expect those kind of books. You can also expect, because I grew up reading Goosebump books, I'd like to reread them and then give you my thoughts and opinion on them as an adult versus as a kid. This even includes Animorphs and some of these other ones. Again, a lot of the things that I'm talking about isn't going to be what we'd call on a weekly basis or something to that effect. I do plan on reviewing books, especially other booktubers' books, whether they traditionally or self-publish them, read, and then give you my thoughts and opinion on them. But don't expect book reviews or writing tips to kind of be the main focus of this channel. It's kind of a dabble in a little bit of everything. I enjoy reading, so I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on it. I enjoy writing, so if you're interested in writing, I'll give you my own tips and advice. Do take note that I am I believe the term is a pantser. I hate that. Sounds like a word that would describe somebody drunk, but whatever. I'm not the one. Maybe the person who was drunk came up with it. They were drunk when they came up with it. Needless to say, I prefer George R.R. Martin's gardener or an architect. I'm more of a gardener rather than an architect. I don't really follow a plan. And that's because back in the day when I started to write, when I got this idea I wanted to be a writer, which was in middle grade after reading some Goosebump books, I was up at nighttime when I'm supposed to be in bed, a shirt shoved under the door. I was reading. I forget what book I was reading, but it was a Goosebump book. I put it down, and I was like, this feeling I'm feeling, I want to give this to another person. So I decided I didn't want to be a police officer at that time, and I wanted to be a author. Unironically, the first story I started to work on was called The Awful Pumpkin Patch. The longest part of me was coming up with titles. I probably spend an hour or two just trying to come up with a title. And then notebook and pencil, when my parents, when I went and told them that I wanted to be a writer, they bought me a stack of notebooks and pencils. I specified pencils, that way I could erase stuff. Would kind of save on paper if I changed my mind, that kind of thing, you know. And I ended up writing 5 chapters in this book called The Awful Pumpkin Patch. Took it to my middle grade English teacher. She read, I think she only read the first chapter. And she stops and she looks at me and she's like, do you know your target audience? Now, I want you to understand that YouTube did not exist at this time for me. I was unaware that how-to books existed. But being in middle grade, whether I would have understood or fully comprehended everything those writers were talking about is probably debatable. So what I did is I just start writing. I didn't outline or anything. I tried outlining. When I got older in high school, I had a little paper route kind of job. Well, it really wasn't my paper route. I was helping somebody with their paper route, and they would pay me money. That's when I would go to Barnes & Nobles and pick up some how-to books, which unironically, because I gravitated toward fantasy, I would dabble in fantasy-based how-to books. This is a trilogy. They are kind of out of print, so you could only really get them used. I think this one is still being printed. I like the fantasy reference one. I even have one from... I'm surprised I didn't grab it. Where are you? I also have one from Diana Wayne Jones. I probably mispronounced her name. My apologies. The Tough Guide to Fantasyland. I like this because it's like a reference book, and it just talks about all the cliches that are found in fantasy. And I was like, this is going to be great because I could look at it and maybe try to do something a little different. Going back to here. So another thing that I want to do is do some kind of like live videos. These are probably going to be on YouTube. I do have a Twitch account, but that's mostly just for me watching other people on Twitch. I did try doing some stuff on there, but it's not really my thing. I think I started on YouTube. This is my home, if you will, on the internet. So one thing I want to do is to do live streams where it's like, all right, we're doing a writing prompt. I'm going to brainstorm and begin writing a story, whether it's flash fiction or a short story, that kind of thing. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to do something practical. This just isn't me, hey, I want to be a writer. Here's some writing advice. Here's me reviewing a book. I want to show you that, hey, you know, I can do this. And what better way than I figured to do a live stream with writing prompts and other writing stuff involved. I also plan on doing book cover review kind of things because I wanted to do something a little different than the rest of BookTube. I'm sure there's other booktubers that do this. Whether they solely do it, I don't know. But in terms of reviews, it's probably going to be the biggest kind of review on my channel. I'll probably be eventually known for just doing book cover reviews. I will be doing book reviews, but this isn't on every new book that comes out or every fantasy or horror or mystery. It's if I really liked or disliked a book, I'll do a review on it, that kind of thing. Now, do I have anything published? I have this degree right here, Creative Writing for Entertainment. I'll probably do a separate video for that. And unironically, we have to move her. She likes to walk on the keyboard. Sorry, Shadow. Unironically, we had to write a short story. We had 2 weeks to get it done. That includes editing. I was so worried about this because I did not want to self-publish something, and it kind of fit into almost every other thing you can find on Amazon where it's not fully edited. I didn't want to be that guy. The instructor was like, don't worry, I'm going to edit it. He clearly told me that just so I would shut up and do the project because I finished it, put it up. He didn't send me anything back as if you should fix this before you upload, try and publish it. So I was like, it must be good. And I had went through it myself. Don't get me wrong. But I always believe we should have another eye that isn't our own to pick up on what we miss. And, well, it was published. I left it up there for, I think, a year and a half before I finally went and was looking through it. And I was like, oh, my God, this is pretty bad. There's all kinds of stuff that's wrong in here. So I took it down. And I'm going down the traditional publishing route for both. I want to jump into doing short stories for magazines. that I'm working on, and of course, middle grade and adult. But when I say adult, I'm not referring to like content wise. I'm just referring to like if I wrote the book, they wouldn't put it in the middle grade or the YA section. That's what I'm referring. Oh, by the way, if you want to read any of my horrendous, the horrendous book I was telling you about, it is a zombie story, just so we're all on the same page. If you want to read this horrendousness, you can find it at my website. This is as it was when it was published. And if you come and read it, you'll be like, yeah, I would have took that down too. The one next to it, this had to do with the comic book section of our degree, where we had to take a known fable, a known story that was in the public domain and redo it. I chose the Little Red Riding Hood and came up with Little Johnny Blue, to which I am the one that drew everything in this horrendous thing, just so we're all on the same page. In fact, the only thing that I actually like is this cat right here. I think I did an okay thing. I haven't drawn in a while, so whether I could redraw that is definitely up for debate. I actually unironically wanted to get back into drawing, so I went and I bought a few books. One, because I want to redo this with better drawing. You know, it's me drawing it, but better than what we're looking at. Not looking like 6-8-year-old Kevin drew it, but, you know, maybe somebody with at least a little bit experience. That is also something I will be talking about unironically on this channel, is updating you on my attempts to get back into drawing, art, all that good stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video in some fashion or form. And remember, readers and writers, you should be forging.